I've been doing this show for the better part of a year now, and throughout the course of that year I've been suggested several webcomics to review by the author themselves. It's not that I think of them as small fry and therefore don't review them. In fact, it is far from that. As a reviewer, I don't think there is a bigger honor than to have the makers come to me and ask me for my 2 cents. It makes me feel appreciated. So why haven't I reviewed any? Well, to be honest, because they aren't long enough. Most of the comics I get asked to review are less than 40 strips long, and while it would give enough material for a quick first thoughts review, it isn't exactly enough to make a full episode about. After all, I am an entertainer. I think.
Are you not entertained?
But a lot of these comics are rather good and deserve to be brought to your attention. So, once I have enough, I may make an episode where I review a couple of them. But for now, I want to talk about a comic that was suggested to me a week ago. Meaningful Memento. Oh my god, this comic. This comic, oh my god! Comic, oh my god, this comic, oh my god, this comic. Oh my god! Meaningful Memento is a webcomic written by someone who calls himself Rio Margin and drawn by someone known as Maxima. The comic is a series of one-shot stories changing with every chapter. However, one story continues but just skips ahead in time for every chapter. Now, I don't want you guys to think I hold my guns just because I know the writer is watching my show. Didn't stop me in X-Cup or Boston Heroes, but this comic is pure fucking free gold. You get the same quality here as you'd get from picking up a drama manga. But let's take it one step at a time and see just why I fell so much in love with this comic. As I said before, the comic is a series of various one-shot stories. Some of them, however, are with the same cast, which is a good thing. Writer's offer tip number 4. When doing several one-shot stories, it can be a good thing to use the same cast. That way, you don't have to worry about wasting your time introducing a new cast, and you can focus on the point of the story. The story that continues itself is about a girl called Sissy, who gets asked to help a guy called Gunnar study. Seeing he's getting such bad grades, he's pulling the average down. Gunnar, however, is at first rather reluctant to study, and when no improvement is shown after 2 months, he quits to focus on his work instead. I swear, if that guy was smaller, bald, wore glasses and was devilishly handsome, I'd be looking at a younger version of myself. The story is pretty bland at first, but as you continue to return to the story, you sort of get more and more into the heads of the characters and find out various things about them. And this is where I get a big awful boner. Don't look at me like that. Rio Margin is probably one of the best writers I've had the honor of talking about in this show. He knows just the right way of telling stuff without voice bubbles. Every author can go, "Lol, I'm pregnant," in dialogue, but a true writer can say that without even writing a single letter. Writer's offer tip number 5. Writing doesn't just come down to writing dialogue. The more you can tell with as few words as possible is the sign of a true professional. I know I'm probably one of the few losers who actually still reads Shakespeare. But it's not just because his name is funny that people still remember him. In his world-famous Romeo and Juliet, he has Romeo saying a bunch of contradictions, such as cold fire, slow run, dark sun, and so forth. So Romeo is clearly off his meds. But what this does is that it tells you something. These contradictions are signs of chaos. The mere words are in conflict with each other, which reflects on Romeo's state of mind. He's confused. Nothing makes sense in his head. I don't necessarily say that this is the degree we are given in meaningful Memento, but it's to emphasize that Rio Martin knows how to say something without actually saying it. And that is the author equivalent of Chuck Norris and Bruce Lee brofisting. Most of the comic stories are meant to trigger some sort of emotion in you, which it does rather well. If I do have to nitpick, which you know I have to, it would be that some of the stories are a little too predictable, and when writing drama, that is a pretty bad thing. But the comic more than makes up for this with its incredible way of telling the stories. The art is really good. Maxima is the perfect artist to fit Rio Martin's storytelling. It's a rather realistic style which helps you connect with the story. Writer's artist tip number 1. There are a lot of different styles of drawing. Make sure your way of drawing fits the story. Here's an example of why this is important. If you were born roughly the same time as me, you can't avoid having seen the animated Batman cartoon and the Spider-Man cartoon. Batman's art style didn't fuck around. It was dark, gruesome and gritty. It fit the Batman universe perfectly. Spider-Man, however, was much more colorful and with these animated sequences that made it look cool. For me anyway. Now, imagine if these two cartoons switched style. It would totally ruin them both. But why? They're both superheroes. Why should it make such a difference? Well, it's the same reason you don't tell a story of Jack the Ripper with My Little Ponies. So use this little proverb. If the art don't fit, your comic is shit. But Meaningful Memento has a wonderful art. That it is realistic helps you relate more to the story. You don't at any point go, why doesn't he just Hadouken the shit out of it? If I had to say anything negative about the art, it'd be that many of the characters look alike at first. It gets better along the way, but it can be dangerous not being able to distinguish between characters the moment you introduce them. Like now, one of us may be the most romantic person on earth. The other is a total douchebag. Girls should be able to know which to pick, which more times than not seems to be the douchebag. Remember how I emphasized that this was free gold? It's because what you get here is really professional level art. Shit, I've seen professional manga artists with worse art than this. Maxima doesn't hold back. If the scene needs a difficult angle or position for the sake of the story, then that is how the drawing ends up. There's no hiding hands, repeated frames, or any other cheap ways to do as little as possible. I swear I'd give my right hand to be able to draw this well. Which would kind of defeat the purpose of the trade now that I think about it. And it would also ruin my entire sex life. Considering that each short story is only a little more than 40 strips long, the characters are awfully deep and well written. It's definitely at the characters that the perfect combo that is Rio Martin and Maxima gets to shine. There's this short story where an overweight man, Ilham, wants to lose weight for the sake of his popular girlfriend. You can tell that he doesn't really mind that he's overweight, but he just wants to lose weight because he's afraid that his girlfriend will leave him, seeing she's so popular. Yet you never actually hear him minding his weight, but are instead told from what the character does and how it's portrayed through the art. Speaking of weight, most of the main characters are portrayed as large men. I don't know if the stories are closely tied to the makers of the comic, or it's because they simply wanted to try a different approach on the whole main hero appearance. For whatever reason, it's refreshing. Now we just sit and wait for someone to make a scrawny, pale, bald guy the hero of the story. Any minute now. Like I said before, the characters are all portrayed really well and are deeper than one might first think. There's this one scene where it is revealed that Sissy has helped Gunnar with his studies for other reasons than one might first have thought. Also, the character who is supposed to be the comic relief character also shows some redeeming qualities, meaning that he isn't just put there for comic relief.
So why the jokes?
Because ED says that according to your armor's metabolic scans, you're under more stress now than during the Skillian Blitz. Like more than Elysium, where it was pretty much you versus 10,000 Batarians trying to kill you. And the last time I had a briefing with Anderson, he told me to take care of you. The guy leading the resistance on Earth is worried about you, and I'm supposed to help.
Read this comic. It has flied under my radar and I'm glad I got to review it. It is one of those lost treasures that are overshadowed by the mainstream. The premise is an 8. These stories are so well written that when I first started reading it at 3 in the morning, I couldn't stop reading. I couldn't fall asleep afterwards. Sometimes less is more, and Rio Martin understands that perfectly. Each story plays with your emotions and takes you for a ride, but it feels like no real chances are taken, which would be nice to see. The art is a 9. The art is a perfect match to the storytelling. It says so much and it took chances. The shading, the angles, everything is ballsy and it works. However, something is missing. I can't put my finger on it, but something is missing, which could help bring the art up on a 10. The characters are another 8. That there can be so much depth in these characters and you get to see it in such a short span of time really shows how great these characters are written. It's like they were real people and you just got to see them in their daily life. But like with the writing, it plays safe. All the characters are good, maybe a little too good. It would be nice to have some conflict, making the reader side with one character instead of the other. All in all, this comic is a big 8. It is not all that funny, but it doesn't try to be. Instead, it's a series of great stories told extremely well with amazing art to back it up. It's really professional quality. I hope this has encouraged you guys who wants an opinion on your comic not to just sit by idly, but come out and show people what you got. Anyway, see you guys in the next Webcomic Relief. Take care.
Little Miss America, now they all glory. She loved the paparazzi. She's trying to sell her story. She's gonna write a movie. She wanna be a star. Little Miss America, where did you get that scar? Where did you get that scar? Did you get that scar? Where did you get that scar? Where did you get that scar? Where did you get that scar?
So use this little proverb. So use the... Oh my god! So use this little... 3 times! 3 times when I get in the mail, Jesus! So use this little proverb. God damn it! So use this little proverb. If the art don't fit, that fucked up my entire thing. Jesus. So use this little proverb. If the art don't fit, your comic is shit. Fucking finally.